Hey, what's going on everyone? Andrew from O&T Games here, and today we're going to be talking about UFC 213, first pay-per-view on the channel. Now this card was supposed to be crazy stacked, but Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw got pulled, Cowboy and Robbie Lawler got pulled, and just a few hours before the fight card started, Amanda Nunes, that main event got pulled out against Valentina Shevchenko because she was hospitalized due to an illness. I mean, she was medically cleared to fight, but it was probably the right call. If you're in the hospital the day of your fight, I don't care who you are, I don't care how fine you are, you should not be fighting. So that was probably the right call. I mean, I know a lot of people are saying, she's scared. I don't think she's scared. She was obviously sick or whatever, but they're going to reschedule that fight for September in Edmonton, I believe. But yeah, 3 years in a row, International Fight Week has just been, their pay-per-view has just been a disaster. But nevertheless, still a lot of good fights on this card, so let's get into it. Now, the first fight I just want to touch on is Travis Browne taking on Alexei Oleinik. Now, Oleinik took the second round submission victory, but I just don't get Travis Browne. Like, he was this huge contender. I mean, obviously things are different in a fight. He just had to keep the range with his kicks and his punches. I think he could have pulled it out. But in that second round, he decides to grapple with the guy who's nicknamed the Boa Constrictor, and then got submitted to this weird side control choke. I don't even know what you want to call it, but I just don't get it. If he kept his pace with his kicks, I don't know if he was like tired and he was trying to just get a break on the ground, but yeah, honestly, that's probably the end of Travis Browne in the UFC. I mean, that's what, he's lost 6 out of his last 8 fights, like 4 or 5 in a row. Maybe Dana White gives him an extra shot just because he's Ronda Rousey's fiance, soon-to-be husband. But I don't know what else you do with this. Like, it clearly tells his chin is deteriorating. Like, he got dropped by Oleinik, he even said after the fight, he's like, I'm not a good puncher. But credit to him, he threw some hard shots in there. But I think this might be the end of Browne. He's just becoming a punching bag now, similar to BJ Penn. Maybe it's just time to call it. But, oh well, who knows. Now, next was a fight that I was really looking forward to for a while. You got Anthony Showtime Pettis taking on Jim Miller. Now, Pettis tried cutting to 145, and I mean, he didn't make the weight, and he looked terrible, and he said he felt terrible, which I'm not surprised. But Jim Miller, on the other hand, has the most wins in lightweight history, so this was going to be a great fight. Now, Pettis took the unanimous decision victory, but Miller did put up a pretty good fight. The first round, he used those calf kicks really well, because Pettis is the guy he's kind of sporadic. Like, he does all these crazy spinning kicks and flipping kicks, and his movement is really crazy, so if he can get his lead leg down, then you're already one step ahead of him. Miller was backing up quite a bit. He's usually the aggressor, so Pettis was controlling the octagon, and that really helped him for the win. You gotta say, Pettis has an underrated ground game. You don't really think of him as a good ground specialist. You think, yeah, he's gonna knock you out, or he's gonna do some crazy running off the cage kick, something nuts, but no, he did a great job, and I would say he's back in the mix at 155. I mean, that's already the most stacked division in the UFC. Justin Gaethje the other night destroyed Michael Johnson in probably the fight of the year. So yeah, Pettis is back in the mix, and I'm glad to see him healthy and obviously putting on a performance like that. Next, we had Fabricio Werdum taking on Alistair Overeem. Now, this was their trilogy fight and potentially the number 1 contenders fight for the heavyweight championship. Now, the Reem did get the unanimous decision win, but it was questionable, The third round was completely dominated by Werdum. He knocked Alistair down. He had top position for, most of the entire round. But Joe Rogan brought up a great point during the broadcast, Nevada, surprisingly, hasn't adopted the new rules, so the whole 10-8 situation could have impacted the result of this fight. Now, Werdum dominated that third round, and if it was the new rules, that probably would have been a 10-8 versus a 10-9 round that, say, the first round that Overeem won that, he didn't dominate the way Werdum did in that third round. He just had a lot of good pressure and was kind of leading the fight, but nevertheless, a win is a win. He did a great job keeping the range, and Alistair did have a lot of nice combos. I mean, he's a very seasoned vet in terms of fighting. I mean, he has how many MMA fights, and before that, how many kickboxing fights. But it's good. I think it's interesting. If Francis Ngannou beats JDS in September, he'll probably get the title shot. But if JDS wins, maybe you give Alistair the title shot. I mean, Stipe has beaten all these top contenders already, so there's not too many guys left to face. But I don't know. Overall, it was a pretty good fight. Now, the main event for the interim middleweight championship had Yoel Romero taking on the Aussie Robert Whittaker. Now, Whittaker won the championship, unanimous decision, and went full 25 minutes. and it showed for Romero. I mean, after the second round, he was just gassed. Like, his takedowns were sloppy. He didn't even get them. I mean, his punches had nothing behind them if he even threw punches. And Whitaker, he showed he had the heart of a true champion. I mean, early in the first round, he got an oblique kick, hyperextended his knee, and he came back after the first round to his corner and was like, yeah, my knee's gone. Like, my leg's destroyed. That's his lead leg, too. And he did not stop him. He kept checking kicks. He kept throwing kicks with that leg and eventually got the win. Now, you gotta feel for Romero. I mean, he's been trying to fight Bisping, and Bisping's been ducking him for so long, and now, he's 40 years old. He just lost the interim title. Like, he's not getting a chance. And I think Whitaker has a good chance to beat Bisping. I mean, Bisping's kind of chinny. I mean, you saw that in his career. And Whitaker has such a good mix of kicks and strikes, and he's so quick. I mean, I could easily see him knocking out Bisping. But at the same time, I can kind of see Bisping, kind of clinching him a lot and just kind of riding out a unanimous decision win. But I'm excited for that fight. That kind of cancels out the whole Bisping GSP thing, which, in my opinion, is kind of good. I mean, I love GSP, but Bisping needs to fight in his division and stop ducking all these guys. Now, after the fight, it was pretty funny. Bisping came in, was just like, I respect you. That was a hell of a fight, but, it makes me sick seeing you with the title and all this other crap. He's like, threw his title on the ground, was like, keep this, like, we're going to fight. Nice little pre-build up to their fight, so it should be good going forward. Romero, I don't know what's next. I mean, he's beat Weidman, he's beat Jacare Souza. Maybe he fights Mousasi and tries to get back into contention for a title. I'm not sure. But overall, this was a hell of a fight. And I'm really happy Whitaker got it. You see his interviews, and he's just a good guy, hard-working guy. He doesn't have to talk crap to his opponents. He just gets in there, he gets the job done, moves on with his life. Now, they are having that fight night in Australia in, I believe it's the end of November. That would be perfect, Aussie's first UFC champion fight in his home soil. But at the same time, can you really see Mike Bisping and Robert Whitaker, undisputed middleweight championship fight going on a free fight night? No, that's definitely a pay-per-view fight. So maybe they take it at MSG, and you give GSP the winner of Woodley Maia in a couple weeks, kind of stack up a MSG card. Who knows? But we'll see what happens. Overall, great fight. Well, thanks a lot for watching. This wasn't the card that we were promised when I first got announced, but overall, still a lot of good fights. We got a new middleweight interim champion. So I'd say overall, still a great night of fights. If you enjoyed, drop a like and subscribe if you're new. And we'll see you next time.